we're gonna start nonetheless. So I'm gonna record. That way, anybody that couldn't make it can watch it later. But good morning, everyone. I'm grateful you're here. It's really good to see you. So there's a few things that we're gonna do today. As I mentioned, we're hopefully gonna have somebody from the fire department come and just share some safety pieces with us. Ronald here is gonna share about something that's coming up in just a few days. And we're gonna have Lawson Wijesuria from Urban Hope be our first guest to kick off a series of conversations on affordable housing. I've already got another guest lined up for an upcoming meeting, but before we jump into that, a few small things that I want to share. So first, I'm going to share my screen. If you haven't seen this yet, now you can. A big shout out to Sunny, who we've been wanting for a while to have a website for New Visions. At the very least, so it could be a landing page, that it could be an easy way to communicate to neighbors. You know, if we have little door hangers, we can have this website on it. You know, we know not everybody has internet, but we know a lot of people do. And this creates just another touch point. I think relational is always going to be a big part of how we connect with neighbors. But this allows us to have a one-stop shop for everything you need. So, you know, for example, someone can click this and join the call right now. You know, if you click here, this will be a spot where we can house, well, is it going? There it goes. All the things that are happening that we are either leading or connected with. So, you know, you got Unity Park, we got the 25th Street Community Safety Initiative. So anyways, here's what I would love for y'all to do. Check out the website, see what you think, and let me know if there are things that you're like, I think it'd be really great if such and such was on the website. Right now, it's just Sunny and I working on that, and neither of us are website developers, so we're just kind of piecing it together. But the hope is that this can build up over time. So yeah, highly encourage y'all to check it out and share that with neighbors. Second thing is, if you are looking for free lunch or dinner today, there is a block party happening on the 1300 block of 22nd Street. So just above 22nd and Fairmount. There's a group of neighbors that just wanted to find a way to connect neighbors together. And they connected with Councilwoman Newble's office, the police chief. And so they've been able to actually close off the road, and there will be free food, free fun. And so, yeah, 1 to 5 today. Feel free to just go over at your leisure, get to know people, invite your neighbors, have fun. So I will be going, not just for the free food, but for the free community, and you should too. There is another event happening on Monday, and actually I'm going to let Ronald share about that. So yeah, Ronald, why don't you take it away?
I appreciate you all allowing me to join in the meeting. My name is Ronald Forbes. I'm a friend. I live in Chesterfield County, but I'm a real friend of Churchill from years ago. I'm a psychiatrist, and I worked at Richmond Community Hospital for a while. My brother was a preacher, and he worked at St. John's Holy Church right across from Richmond Community. You know St. John's? Jim Forbes?
I went there as a child.
Did you?
Yes.
Was Bishop Clements there then? Or
no, it was your brother.
Reverend Forbes. Well, great,
yeah,
great.
He was new. I was a little girl. My aunt used to pick me up. That's another story. We'll talk.
I'd like to talk about that. So I'm just saying that Richmond Health Center was over on Broad Street. It was a program. So I've just worked around Churchill a good bit. I taught it at the medical school. I ended up as medical director at Central State Hospital down in Petersburg for a number of years. And we have been coming up on our 150th anniversary during the pandemic. So there were a number of activities all through the pandemic that got canceled or that got turned into virtual events. Well, our last event is the placement of a marker in Church Hill, because in fact, that's where Central State Hospital was first organized. During the Civil War, there was a place, there was a hospital, a Confederate hospital. And at the end of the Civil War, they allowed some of the recently freed slaves to come for care, tuberculosis, smallpox, but also people who were having behavioral problems. Eventually, by 1870, they saw that it was a real need for a psychiatric hospital. They didn't call it that. They called it a lunatic asylum. It's called the Central Lunatic Asylum for the Colored Insane. That's a mouthful, but the Central Lunatic Asylum was taken over by the state in 1870. So from 1870 to 2020 is the 150th anniversary. The DHR, Historical Resources, has allowed us to put up a marker where Central State was started, which is really, I mean, the thing is that Howard's Grove was a park owned by the Howard family. They went from like Coulter all the way over to like 25th, and an annex was around 20th and Fairmount. And so that's where Central Lunatic Asylum was first organized. On Monday at 10:30, we're going to have the unveiling of that marker right by Mount Tabor Church parking lot. So Fairmount and 20th, Fairmount and 21st. Is that about where I'm right? Is that where Mount Tabor is? I think maybe 20th.
Yeah, it's Mount Tabor fills that block between 20th and 21st on Fairmount.
Yeah, and so the mayor, I'm hoping the mayor will be there, Ms. Newbill, Ms. McQuinn, and Governor, somebody from the governor's office. Well, just a number of city people are going to be there to celebrate with us. And my sensitivity is that if all of a sudden, if there's a party on my block and I don't know what it's about, that's not a good thing. So I'm glad that I was able to find you all just to say, allow me to come into your neighborhood with this activity. And really, just like you're talking about the party this afternoon, I see it that Monday morning is going to be a time, it's going to be a ceremony and some speeches, 20 minutes, but it's mostly a neighbor time to be proud of something that was started and continues. So I hope that some of you would be able to be there. It'll be 10:30 at Mount Tabor parking lot. They will have some seats. It's going to be informal and probably will go until about 11:30, 11:45, and lots of time for interaction if anybody chooses to. Yeah. So Central Lunatic Asylum, one moniker of it is classy, Central Lunatic Asylum for the Colored Insane. And one of my worries is that the young Turks, the young guys, when they see something goes up and says something about lunatic, they're going to say, that's not me, that's not me. It's not so much about lunatic, it's more that 150 years of care was started on that corner and has been maintained, and we want to celebrate that. Yeah. So again, Ronald Forbes, thank you for allowing me to be in your meeting.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm into affordable housing too. I'd like to sit around and hang out with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for sharing. And yeah, I want to just echo and encourage everyone, if you have the availability on Monday morning to head out to 20th and Fairmount at 10:30. I plan to be there. I actually, I remember when I was living on Fairmount and I was looking at the history, I remember finding some old maps and seeing across the street from my house used to be this hospital. Right. So I was really intrigued by it. And so when I saw the news that there was going to be a marker dedicated, I was like, well, I'm going to go and check that out. So yeah, everyone, if you're available at that time, check it out. And if you're not, go there and look at the marker afterwards. And
as the next 48 hours go, tell your friends something that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
And my email is my name, ronald.forbes@gmail.com. ronald.forbes@gmail.com. Write me if you need to.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm just going to double check. I've got a few numbers on here. I don't think that the fire chief is on, but if the fire chief, if you're on, now is the time to say I am on. Otherwise, we're going to move on. All right, that's silence. Oh, wait, is that the fire chief? Oh, who's that?
That's Miss T.
Oh, Miss T, how you doing?
Yeah, I had to join by the way of the telephone this morning because my computer is acting up.
Well, I'm glad you're here, even if it's just your voice, Miss T.
All right, carry on.
So I know one thing that the fire chief did want to talk about, and maybe they'll come to another meeting, is he reached out about a few weeks ago. There'd been a number of house fires, and so he wanted to share about fire safety. So, I don't know exactly what it's going to say, but stay safe. be careful with fire. But just be aware. I mean, it is already, it's not even summer yet, and we're hitting 90 degrees. So things are hot, things are dry. So just have an awareness both outside your house and within your house. Just be aware of different things that could lead to fire issues. If you don't have fire extinguishers, that's always a good thing to have in your house. Check them every so often to make sure they're still good. So I don't know if that's all of what the fire chief was going to say, but that's what we're going to roll with. And we're going to move forward. So we actually have a friend of mine, a long time neighbor within Churchill, and also sporting her branded shirt, staff on Urban Hope, Lawson Wigisteria. And I'm really grateful that she's here because something that's been on my mind as long as I have been a part of New Visions, but especially over the last few years, and especially as I've seen conversation online, sometimes less conversation, more arguments, the topic of affordable housing. And what does that mean? Not just in general, but what does that mean for us as a community organization? For people who claim to be neighbors helping neighbors, how do we understand affordable housing, and how do we address that? How do we navigate that? How do we engage with that? And I think we all are aware that term affordable housing can have different connotations depending on the conversation, can evoke different emotions, can evoke some strong responses. And so here's the reality. Those of us that have been in the Fairmont area for as few as 2 years, but definitely 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 50, 60. We all know, if you've been here for any of those lengths of time, that what Fairmont looks like today is different than it looked like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We've seen a lot of change, and change in and of itself is not an issue. Change is inevitable. But our question as a civic association is, how can we, in the midst of change, continue to be neighbors helping neighbors? How can we, in the midst of change, find ways to ensure that our community is one of thriving for all of our neighbors, whether they are new or have been here all their lives, whether they are wealthy or don't even have secure shelter. We want this community to be one for thriving for all neighbors. Affordable housing is a big piece of that. And so over the next few months, I want to create spaces for us to have some real dialogue about this. But I want to set some ground rules, and I'll do this every time. So one, this time is not going to be one where we solve things. I think we all know that like one singular meeting is not the time that it's going to be solved. I need to name that because sometimes that's our goal going into conversations like these, is we're gonna fix it. We're having a discussion as neighbors. We're trying to get to a place where we can hear each other, see what each other are seeing, and learn at least some practical ways we could step forward. The second point is like it. None of us have the definitive answers. Sometimes we can go into conversations feeling like that too, that we know what the problem is and how to fix it. We know who's right, who's wrong. None of us are coming into this as definitive experts. We may come in with some expertise, but we need to know how to bring that alongside the expertise of others, whether that is formal expertise or just practical life lived expertise from being in the neighborhood. So, and the third thing is we're just going to respect each other. So in whatever dialogue happens, if we find that tension starts to build, we're going to all commit to finding ways to respect each other in that. I'm going to serve the role of facilitator and help guide the conversation. Hopefully that will mostly just mean throwing out some prompt questions, kind of guiding the dialogue. Worst case scenario, I have the power to mute, but I would rather not use that because I think we are just the type of civic association that we typically can converse together. So all that being said, I want to welcome Lawson, and I'm just going to jump right in. So Lawson, it's a I see that. So Lawson, it's a three-part question. Who are you? What in the world is Urban Hope? And why in the world should you and Urban Hope be a part of this kickoff of the conversation on affordable housing?
Yeah, I would love to take some of those. Greetings, everybody. Happy Saturday morning. Thanks
Good
for letting
morning.
me in the Urban Hope branded t-shirt, which was really just pajamas so that I didn't have to dress up for this meeting. So I appreciate that. So I'm Lawson Wijay-Saria. I live up on Oakwood Avenue. My husband and I moved to Church Hill in 2004. So we've been here for 17 years. Actually, today is the 17th anniversary of us moving in. We moved in on June 5th.
Look at that timing.
Yeah. So we have loved what it has meant to live and grow and learn and work and play and raise our kids in the context of this beautiful neighborhood that we all get to be a part of. It really has been an amazing privilege. Also there's been a weight to it for sure, knowing that that there's impact I have in the neighborhood that is a part of that history and story of change. So Paul, just to compliment you, I get to talk a lot about affordable housing, and I would say that is the most thoughtful setting of a context that I've gotten to do, and all of those things we affirm at Urban Hope, and it's really important. So that's a little bit of who I am. So I work at Urban Hope. I am the director of development and strategy there. I am on a team of 4 amazing women. So I'm sorry the other 3 could not join me today because they're much smarter and more interesting than I am. But you get me today, and hopefully you'll get to meet Sarah Hale, who's our executive director, Carolyn Lofton, who is our director of housing and family services, and Shalita Drabaugh, who is very new to the team, started last week and is our director of operations. Both Carolyn and Shalita live in the neighborhood. They also live on Oakwood Avenue. So we keep it real close. So what I thought I would do, at least that I hope is in line, that Paul said would be appropriate. I do have a presentation more just to kind of help me talk through the story of Urban Hope to give us something to react to. So this is more me just informing so that people know what Urban Hope is doing, where do we fit in that big spectrum of affordable housing, because we have always been a resident-led solution within our neighborhood, and we want to remain that way. So afterwards, obviously we can take it in any direction and talk about things. They don't have to be about Urban Hope, but just thought I would share screen all right, let me do this. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I can share in a way that's just the sorry, give me one sec. Okay. How's that looking for everybody? Thumbs up? Okay. Great. So we, okay. So our main mission is to make home a cornerstone of opportunity by keeping it affordable. We do that in multiple ways, but we are about everything that has to do with home connecting to opportunity for residents. And so we know from lots and lots of research that the fancy word of social determinants of health, ways that if we are seeking to live healthy, holistic, flourishing lives, that home and housing and shelter is at the root of that. That is the cornerstone, that's a foundation. And when that is unstable, unaffordable, or we're moving around a lot, or we're facing eviction, or doing any of those things, that's going to have detrimental effects to our health, to our education, to our economic opportunities, to the well-being of our families. The live of this are struggling. Okay. So we were founded actually 21 years ago, and our birthday's coming up this month, June 22nd. We were founded by residents. So these were Black ministry leaders working primarily in the Creighton Court area. Don Coleman, who's probably very recognizable to many of you, was the founding executive director with a whole team of folks, many from Charity Family Life. And they said, oh, we see that this is coming. We see that change is happening in our neighborhood. And we really want to be a part of creating affordable housing. We want to create opportunities for residents in public housing to be able to purchase a home or rent a home, be able to move out of public housing, but also for residents to own their homes so that they can stay and have an ownership stake in the neighborhood. So that was what was happening. And we were initially very focused on homeownership. But as time went on, as we were responding to trying to put the resident need right at the center of what we were about, we realized that rental housing was more needed in some ways. There were other organizations doing affordable housing at those higher levels of income, usually somebody that's actually prepared for full home ownership. And folks that are making, less than 50% of our area median income are ones that often are a little bit farther away on the timeline towards home ownership. And we wanted to fill that gap for them to say, you actually need stable, affordable rentals in order to usually get to a place where homeownership is possible for your family. So that's where we shifted our focus. And now that's the primary work that we do. We do still partner with families in homeownership and have a few on that track right now. But the bulk of our work is now in rental housing. We teach a financial health class that was launched 3 or 4 years ago. And this came out of Carolyn Lofton doing a lot of both receiving of financial classes herself, and then training to become a housing counselor and a financial health social worker. And in all of that, she said, there's great information out there, but very few of the resources out there are taught with a trauma-informed approach. And so Urban Hope has actually designed their own curriculum. It's highly successful, very relational. And so the class actually acts a lot more like a small group, accountability with one another, really sharing in the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs of meeting their own established financial goals. So instead of us saying, hey, you need to do this in order to be successful, we just partner alongside residents and we say, well, wherever it is that you want to go to become financially healthy, whatever that means for you, we want to walk alongside you getting there. And that's a really essential piece of why we think our work works, because we are very involved with our tenants and residents in just partnering in that financial health story. All right. So this just gives you a little bit of kind of the overview, like how big are we, how small are we, just kind of show some nuts and bolts of where we play in the space. So we currently have 21 rental units that are occupied. One of those is a quad, 3 duplexes, single family, you can see that. We are in a huge expansion mode right now. As you know, the real estate market is very hot. So that makes it difficult for us to do our work, but it also makes it all the more urgent. We are really passionate about anti-displacement. And so anything that we can be doing to expand opportunity to keep low-income folks in the neighborhood that want to stay here, so they're not driven out either by rising tax prices or by their rents going up, or any of those forces that are happening right now as real estate becomes more valuable. We want to be about counteracting that displacement. So we are trying to expand and we are working as hard as we can to keep doing that. And we are neighborhood focused. We are all within the East End and the census tracts within 23223. So on the operations side of what we do, that just gives you, a kind of rough look. Annual budget, that's things that just pay for the organization to exist. So, staff salaries and insurance and our programs, our financial health class, our curriculum development, all those sorts of things. One of the things we really love to educate people about, and this is actually why I work at Urban Hope. I was in education previously. I also own the Neighborhood Scoop. If you've been there, I know several of you have. And I felt like I was kind of seeing housing change around me, and I was seeing other affordable housing agencies at work in our neighborhood. And I had great respect for those people doing that work, but I became a little bit confused because it felt like affordable housing was a really big umbrella, and we were calling all sorts of things affordable housing. And I didn't feel like those houses were available to very low and extremely low income people. And so I was like, wait, what? Oh, well, there's many things we call affordable, because all that affordable means is that you're spending less than 30% of your annual income on your housing. So $1 million home can be affordable for people that make that much money, that it's less than 30% of their annual median income. And I mean, of their annual income. So this AMI, which is just kind of jargon in the affordable housing world, is based on the region to say, okay, what's the area's median income, which in the Richmond region, it will depend on your household size, of course, but it's roughly around like $82,000 a year. And so where we work is with folks that are earning between 20 and 50% of that AMI. That is well below where most other affordable housing agencies are working. So there are other supportive housing organizations that are working at that low income. They might be doing some mental health services as well. But a lot of your, Project Homes, Better Housing Coalition, like some of those others, they're mixing in, home ownership is typically more at 60, 80, 100, 120% of your area median income. So that's a real distinguishing piece of the work that Urban Hope is doing. And so when we want to engage with the folks that are really facing eviction, facing instability, facing the real displacement work, that's where you're going to find most of their incomes. And that's going to be a little bit different than those that are positioned to buy and purchase an affordable home on the home ownership affordable housing kind of world. So, okay, let me speed it up here a little. So just hopefully maybe there's a couple familiar faces. We just these are the wonderful engine people of who's currently serving on our board. So many of them are residents. A couple really exciting projects we have going on. So we are in partnership with the Land Trust, Peter Paul, and Rework. And this is an attached single family home that is currently being built. It's supposed to be finished in about a month. It's being built directly behind Peter Paul. So I think that's 21st. Oh yeah, 21st Street, 1701, 21st Street. It's right there. So you could go check it out. It's beautiful. There's a grant that was infused into this whole program with all 4 organizations that's making this extraordinarily affordable. The rents will be able to be very, very low. We will manage we will own and manage the property, but they will be families that are also being served by Rework and Peter Paul, and then the Land Trust will maintain ownership of the land. So this is just a really cool way that the neighborhood's working together to provide. These are 2 3-bedrooms. They're really gorgeous. Come on, switch over. We also were granted, thanks to civic associations like yourself who supported us, we were granted 2 land bank undeveloped lots. And one of those we have already raised the funding for and have begun. We have contracted with Center Creek to build a multi-generational 4-bedroom handicapped accessible home on 29th Street, which is really exciting. So that should be coming to you very soon. We have not physically broken ground, but it's coming. It's happening. All right. I still don't know why it takes so long for my things to switch. There we go. Oh, okay. So just a little bit of how we get our work done, and I'll go through this pretty fast. It's a busy slide, but basically there are folks who want to make social impact with their capital, and they have some capital that they can share with us, not necessarily give it away. So we also take people who give away philanthropic money, and that's great. We love that too. But part of how we need to get capital going and faster to be able to develop more property is borrowing money, but borrowing it at below market rates. And that helps us to be able to keep the rents low, of course. So an investor would say, yes, I've got $20,000 or $25,000. I want to share that with you for a period of time. They invest it with us. we bring another rental unit online, the rents are set to be able to pay that interest on the investor loan, as well as obviously property taxes and insurance and all the things that it costs to run rental properties. But as you can see, we're keeping our rents significantly below where most of what you can find on the open market. So people are contributing to that. They get paid 2.5% back on their money every year. And then at the end of a 5-year term, they can take their entire loan back, and we will pay them their $25,000 back at the end of the term of their loan. Or they can say, no, this is awesome. I want to keep getting my 2.5%. I want you guys to keep building and creating rental housing in the neighborhood. And so then you can hold on to it for another 5 years, and the same cycle begins again. So what can people do in the neighborhood to be a part of the Urban Hope work? Champion inclusive, equitable, affordable housing. It's really important that all of us care about inclusivity in the neighborhood. Density is good, new building is good. Having housing in all of the different ranges of incomes is a great thing for a healthy neighborhood. So we want it all, but what we don't want is when so many high income houses are built that then those people say, well, I'm all for affordable housing, I just don't want it near me. And so we really need to be champions to say, no, we want to live next door to all different sorts of different people, and learning how to love one another and be good neighbors. And so there's lots of ways to do that. There's times when projects will come up where you can advocate to say, yes, we want affordable housing built in our neighborhood, or we want affordable housing to be put into the land trust, or whatever those different activities are. So you can be a great champion for making our work easier. Donating, of course, any amount. We have donors from $5 up to thousands and thousands, and all of that gets our work to happen. So we would just love for people to be a part of it at whatever level is appropriate for their budgets. Investing, kind of already went over that. Sorry, this is out of date on the February 24th. We do have investing webinars every quarter. So the next one is in September. Sorry that I didn't that I didn't see changing that date. And then volunteering. We had a volunteer day a couple weeks ago. It was really fun. We painted a fence. We built a patio. We cleaned up a yard. So just helping our tenants maintain, the homes, and ways that we can encourage them in projects they might want to get done, or to enhance the home. And we always have maintenance calls that we would love volunteer labor to help us with. It keeps it more affordable for us. So, all right, and I think that is it. Hold on, why is come on. There we go. Okay, these are our contacts, but I can put those in the chat too. So I will stop my share so we can see each other. And yeah, so that's just a little bit about Urban Hope and the work we're doing. Happy to take questions about that work specifically, or hand it back to Paul if you want just more kind of broad affordable housing questions and conversation. Happy to just play a role as neighbor too.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate that. And I appreciate great slideshow. Just again, everyone, I'm recording this so that if you were watching, you're like, oh man, I wanted to see that slide a little longer, you can. So I'll make sure to get that link out there. Yeah, what I'd love to do now is really just open the floor up. Like Austin said, it can be questions about Urban Hope, but it can also be broader questions about affordable housing. And I want you to be thinking about what you'd like to ask, but I'm going to give you a little bit of space by asking kind of a question myself. And so, yeah, I appreciated, there's a few questions, Lawson, that I would have wanted to ask, particularly like, what can we do? And so you had that great slide. It's like, here's what you can do. But the question I want to ask is actually one that hit when I was realizing that it can be great to have information. It can be great to have action steps, but none of that means anything if we don't believe it can actually happen, that change can actually happen. I have heard enough conversations with people who have seen, price changes in our neighborhood. Your annual budget is $430,000. you could also buy a house for 4 under 3, right? So it's like there are people who can see the price changes over the years and who can lose hope and say, I've you know what, I had hoped for the Fairmount community, but I think that ship sailed. Why should people have hope that affordable housing for all can happen? Why should people have hope in what Urban Hope is standing for?
Yeah, so we came up with some alternative titles for ourselves at work that were more just like funny. And my notepad says, I think it says something like "Shalom seeking fool." I'm just foolish enough actually to believe, and I felt called from a faith understanding when I moved to this neighborhood about ways that I think Churchill is actually really uniquely positioned to be an integrated place to live across socioeconomics, across race, across generations. I think that is true because of our geography and our housing stock and our history. And I'm filled with so much hope. And I think that I also tend to approach life from a standpoint, this is a little bit more of a personal answer, but I think actually is very reflected in the values of Urban Hope, which is there's a lot that it doesn't make sense actually on paper. And most affordable housing agencies have left our neighborhood because of it, because it's no longer feasible to quote, do this work. Well, I just don't accept that. I accept that it will be harder. I accept that Urban Hope can't compete on the open market for property with people that have lots of capital. But I just don't accept that we don't have the courage, the freedom, the values to say that we get to decide. Like we get to decide that it's more worth it to us to live in a place that remains diverse, that I actually am willing to pay more for my house if I know that it puts me in proximity to lower income folks that have so much to teach me and so many ways that they are essential for my healing as a white person who has moved to this neighborhood, that I don't want to live here without that. That if my presence drives that out, I will have failed. And so I feel like it just requires a ton of innovation and creativity. And that's what Urban Hope, the other housers like in our industry, they literally scratch their head. They ask us a lot. They're like, how do you keep doing this? And we're like, well, you know, there are people out there that want this to happen in an increasing way. We're raising more money than we ever have in the past to get this done. And so I think I have hope because I feel like if we continue to try to act in ways that align with our values and not just a simplistic like financial market kind of like what already makes sense. I'm foolish. I'm foolish enough to believe in it, and I'm okay being that foolish. But it's a big area, and there's still a lot of infill that can happen. There's still density to be had. There's just ways that if we want it, and if enough people want it, and if enough people that are moving in want it, and enough people that are willing to stay and willing to say that they need help to stay. I mean, I think that's the other piece, which is like right now we're partnered with a neighbor who desperately wants to stay in the neighborhood and who has to find a way to buy her family home and keep it so that, you know, another generation doesn't sell it out from under her. And Urban Hope is partnering with her in that. And we're exploring all sorts of unique financing to get that done, and having conversations with lenders. And so, Yeah. Anyway, that's a windy answer, but I feel like God has a really special purpose for what's happening in the East End of Richmond. And I don't know that I'll see it in my lifetime, but I know that I will die here trying. So I think that one other thing I would say, because you said this in the beginning, Paul, and it was really actually very essential for my own. I think it was partly about my own journey as a white person moving in and the story of gentrification and what it meant to take responsibility for that. But it was actually Bill Martin who said to me when I was asking him about other history in other neighborhoods, he said, communities are always changing. Like we're not trying to not change. And I think for a while when I felt so guilty and heavy about the gentrification process, I think I was like, oh, I'm just trying to stop change. I'm trying to stop more of what I did from happening. And I think that's obviously just wrong, because that's just not the way the world works, but also unhelpful. And so I feel like as I've been able to think about, a community is always changing, but we get to have agency in exploring how we want it to change and how we can stand for the aspects of justice or inclusion or like that we want to, that's a part of navigating change. It's a part of creating change that you want to see, being a part of the parts of that change that you want, and really capitalizing on. There's some great parts, obviously, to the development. It's not any better for the neighborhood to be abandoned and forgotten and disinvested in. That's not good for anybody either. But how do we reinvest in a way that cares for the poor? How do we reinvest in a way that acknowledges history, that doesn't come in to say, oh, well, I'm here now, so I get to be whoever I want to be. But no, there's a deference and there's a submission to what has come before. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that. And, a piece that extends from what you said is someone can hear and say, well, that's great that Lawson has all this hope. I don't know. I just don't know that I can build that amount of hope. The beautiful thing is we don't all have to get to that level. We can support you and Urban Hope where you are with that excitement. We could come alongside that. In other words, say, I can't see what you can see, but you can clearly see something. So I'm going to get behind that. And so threaded throughout what you've shared is community is another piece to all this, that Urban Hope is not meant to operate in a silo. Like Urban Hope needs us, needs civic associations, needs neighbors, needs people to stand with you. I mean, Urban Hope formed because of the community. It's been reshaped because of the community. And even to this day, it's constantly morphing based on community feedback. And so I think we have not just an opportunity, but almost an obligation. If we really do want this kind of stuff, if we want a neighborhood of thriving, we have an obligation to come and stand with entities that are doing that. The floor is open. I want to leave space for questions that y'all have. So yeah, if there's anything you want to ask, now is the time.
Lawson, how do neighbors that need to be connected to your services connect with Urban Hope? What's your process?
Yeah, it's highly relational. And so our application is on our website, which is urbanhoperva.org. And it is the basic preparation for your first meeting with Carolyn Lofton. So Carolyn does intake, once somebody's documentation, primarily around their financial situation, their employment, some of their history. But again, all of that is informational. There are not pre-qualifiers. You don't have to, we don't like background check and, your income, all this stuff. Like there's nobody that shouldn't come into a conversation with us. It doesn't mean that we will always fit everybody. The one thing we do usually share at the front end is we are not a great option for crisis housing. We just, thankfully, in many ways, we don't have that much turnover. Our tenants are quite stable. And so the only way we have new properties is when we, build them or buy them and acquire them and add them into the portfolio. That's not, obviously we have some turns and we have some folks that move on and move into market rates. So, but the typical, timeline of somebody in need of housing, they're going to need to not be in crisis. They're going to need probably homeless services if they're in crisis, and we don't fit that bucket. But if they want to pursue and say, yeah, I'd really like to be in a better situation, 4 months from now, then we are a really good option for Carolyn to just start partnering with them. They can start coming to the financial health class. And then we just get to know their situation and match them with something that meets their income. They do have to have income, whether that's through employment or support. But they, so really kind of in some ways, quote, everyone qualifies in that there are no like strikes against you. But it also means that then it's the kind of game because we're not huge and we don't have a big apartment complex that we can like put a bunch of people into. It's just sometimes some waiting and some navigating of like, oh, wait, if I have 5 kids, I've got to wait for a bigger house. And so navigating is hard, but anybody should get in touch with us, and they just bring their financial history to a meeting with Carolyn, and that's how they start the process and start coming to class. Yeah, it's good to hear in the comment, Unicia. So yeah, and one of the things we do want to spread the word out. This is kind of new territory for us, but this neighbor I described to y'all, we really want to be expanding Urban Hope's reach into the anti-displacement work of keeping homeowners stable and in their homes. And so please, just even from that standpoint, even when you are not like in search of housing, if there are pressures within the neighborhood that are causing instability in anyone's housing situation, regardless of income, we want to be a part of that. And we want to figure out ways that we're also creatively helping, ways that we can advocate for. I think there's also some I think there's some really, really clear policy things that can happen that would just not be that hard, that have to happen at the local level around property taxes, things that we could do, I think, pretty easily, depending on, income and how long you've lived in the neighborhood, and actually change your property taxes that way, instead of it just being, this constantly ascending assessment. So, and there are people talking about that. That's not like, a crazy pie in the sky. People are talking about it, but as we know, city can move slow at times. So yeah, so we do, we do have actually a loan, really low interest loan funds available through our bank, where anyone that's our client or tenant could actually access loans with us, and it would be a formal loan, so it would add to your credit score, all those sorts of things. So there's some good options, but yeah, please continue to spread the word if on your blocks, for whoever you're in relationship with. If somebody is under the threat of displacement, we would want to talk to them and partner along the way. Even if we don't have a ready-made product, we want to create them. So we need neighbors that will, want to share their need with us, and then say, hey, let's partner to be creative enough to figure out how to keep you here.
Do you guys do anything with like home maintenance for people that have been here, and they're in a spot where I guess maybe the loan product would work for that, where they need to fix something, but they just don't have the capital available? Is that something you guys have?
A good question. We have not done much of that. I do know, and I'd be interested in talking to Marion. I don't know if Dave might know more, but I do know Project Homes does that, and that's pretty central to their work. So I just know they do a lot of aging in place work and a lot of, affordable maintenance type stuff. So I probably would send somebody there first. But again, that's also some of what we hope to do, is that because we're so rooted in the neighborhood, that if folks come to us with a like, oh, well, Urban Hope's kind of the place to go in the East End, and then we would reach out to partners that we know about. We sent a family that we were in relationship with to the Land Trust when they were starting their rent to own program. So yeah, we would, again, we would just hopefully be able to navigate to that resource if we couldn't provide it. But no, we haven't really done anything in that realm. So.
And I'll just add, Project Homes is a great option. And actually that taps into something that's really important. I said earlier, Urban Hope isn't meant to exist in a silo. And that doesn't just mean in how people engage, but also they're going to have the things that they are designed to do, and they're not meant to do all of the things. And so the way that we see thriving in our community is also learning what other entities are doing the other things and connecting. And so Project Homes, we actually had someone at our last meeting, Andrew Grigsby with Viridian, and he shared about some, not just solar, but home energy efficiency things that they do. But he said that with Project Homes, if you are, I think it's over 60, I think if you're a veteran, if you receive government assistance, you can often qualify not just for a free home energy assessment, but they have funds to take care of like some pretty major things. And so that is a great resource. The way he put it, it's like, it's free money. So yeah. Well, we at least have a few more minutes. Are there any other questions?
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, major like sinkhole. Oh no.
I don't know.
Don't know either.
Scary.
Just don't fall in, okay?
I found out that when they redid my home, they were lazy with, I guess, the pipes underground towards the front end of the house. And those pipes have caused something, and they were old and they should have been replaced, and they weren't replaced. And so it's causing water to run underground. And so the side of my house, the sidewalk started to sink in, and it happened about 6-7 years ago. And I called a contractor, and they said, oh, well, it's runoff from your roof, and you get a water barrel. So I got a water barrel, and they replaced, fixed the sidewalk, but the same thing started happening again. So I called the plumber, and they said that's what it is. And it'd be only $9,000 to fix. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. One possibility with old pipes, if they are lead pipes, the city has a lead pipe replacement program. I don't know if there are still spots available this year, but I just went through that replacement myself. It's a longer story, but similar thing. We found out we were going to need to replace them. I found out the cost that it would be, and I was like, that's so much. And they will cover up to $2,500 of repairs. So that could be one. I can try to find the link again, but I just searched City of Richmond lead line replacement grant, and it popped right up. And they give you a list of plumbers that you need to use. Advanced Plumbing is who I use, and they were very knowledgeable and quick, but that could be a possibility. I don't know if Project Homes does water line replacement, but that grant could be a way to knock some of the price off.
Thank you. I'll look it up.
Yeah. So it's 10 o'clock. I do want to respect time, but if someone's heart is just beating because you're like, I've got that question I needed to ask, the space is open for that one more question.
Well, and I'll just invite y'all to please feel free to follow up. Please, if questions that you'd rather take offline, or just, challenges as well. I mean, we need eyes and ears in all parts of the neighborhood. And if there's just stuff that you're like, I don't know, Urban Hope thinks that they're doing this, but that's not the way I see it. Like, we really want to learn from one another. Housing is a complicated space. And so please feel that you can challenge us, that we want to be in the trenches together, learning from one another, and we want to be really rooted here in the specific needs of what's happening in the East End. So our door is always open. Our offices are in the Green Fiddler Building, 1111 North 25th, and we'd love to continue the conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Austin. I plan to get on your mailing list so I can find out more about what you do. And maybe, do you have virtual meetings that are open to the public?
So kind of, we don't really have just public hearing meetings, but there will be times that the newsletter will be your best place for that, because sometimes we do like bus tours, or we do those like info sessions, or we're having a birthday party in November. So all of those things, you can just kind of find out more about us, volunteer days. So yeah, if you just go to the website, urbanhoperva.org, I'll put that in the chat. You can sign up for the newsletter. Unfortunately, it pops up at you, which I can't stand. And we don't actually send that many newsletters, so have no fear. we send them about once every 2 to 3 months. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Awesome. Thank you for who you are, and thank you for what Urban Hope's doing. Appreciative of both. So I'm going to close this up, but a few things before I do. One, as I mentioned, this is not a one-off conversation. This is a series of conversations. So I'm working on what that will look like. So here are some ways you can help. One, if you have thoughts about, hey, we should really talk about this, or you should really get this person, or feel free to send those to me. I really want to hit this from multiple angles. So one of the angles that I'm going to hit at is talking about housing instability and what that looks like, because that's an issue in our community as well. We have a lot of neighbors who don't have reliable housing. So we're going to talk about that. The second thing you can do around that is, the more people we have, it's a great turnout today, but we could even, we have a lot of neighbors that aren't here. And so in the latest email I sent, you can see a link to a form. It's like 3 questions. That's basically your opportunity to say, hey, I would love for the meetings to be at this day and time instead of that day, right? So it's your opportunity to share what works best for you. So yeah, and I'm also playing around with, we do this the first Saturdays of each month. I'm on the fence about July 3rd, because usually people are traveling. So that may or may not happen. So if you have thoughts on that, feel free to send it, but I'll let y'all know soon. And then just to remind y'all, today, 1 to 5, if you take a walk on over to 22nd and Fairmount, there's going to be a big block party from 1 to 5 on the 1300 block. So invite your neighbors, go get some free food, great conversation. On the 7th at 10:30 on Monday, head over to 20th and Fairmount, and just take in that celebration of history that happened in our neighborhood, and the placement of that dedication marker. Thank you again, Ronald, for sharing about that. And one thing that I didn't mention, but it's worth mentioning, is on Friday, the Robinson Theater is returning to their In the Sun Again block party. It is a fantastic community event. It's outside of our boundaries, but still important, still walking distance. And there'll be a number of folks that and entities that you know and love that are going to be setting up tables there. Now that restrictions have been lifted, that's opening up a little more of what that can look like, because we had to make some big changes with what that was going to be based on past years. But if you're around Friday evening, I think it starts at 5. I should know this. Check it out. Free food, free fun, great music. So that's it. I want y'all to all enjoy this 90-degree day. Keep cool. Keep some bottled waters handy if you see a neighbor that needs some water. And I'll see y'all next time. So thank y'all for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.